Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. This is gonna be an exciting video. And before I waste any of your guys' time, I know you guys click these videos to see the specs and what is included on this bike and the price. And we're gonna get into that right off the bat in today's video. So without further ado, let's just get into the specs right now. You are looking at the C3Strom Astro Deluxe, now with rear suspension. The range of this bike is 32 to 78 miles. You have a speed of 32 miles per hour in off-road mode. Your charge time with the 4 amp charger, you're looking at 4 to 5 hours. The battery that's included on this bike is a 52 volt, 20 amp hour using Samsung cells, and they are 21700s. You have the motor in the back. It's a 750 watt motor with a peak of 1800 watts in total. You have a half twist throttle on here. It's a single speed. There are no gears in the rear whatsoever. This bike weighs 100 pounds, 99 point something pounds, almost 100 pounds. It is a very beefy, heavy bike. It can support someone up to 360 pounds. The seat height is 33.7 inches, and it says recommended 5'3" to 6'6" of a rider. Now, what's really impressive about this bike is the rear suspension that they added. It's a RockShox with 360 PSI adjustable lockout, 4 piston hydraulic brakes front and back. You have a nice beefy headlight in the front, nice handlebar setup, high beam, low beam, turn signals, and an electric horn. You have some nice CTS Scout tires. They're 20 by 4 inches wide. You're probably not gonna get a flat very easy on this bike compared to other bikes out there on the market. The rear rack of this bike will hold up to 33 pounds. You can also see that we got the center storage basket as well added onto this bike. You can definitely throw an extra battery in there or some groceries or other things that you need to put in there on your daily route. Now that you know most of the specs on this bike and what to look out for, I do like to sit on these bikes so you guys can get an idea if this might be a bike for you depending on your height. I can put my feet completely flat on the ground. My knees are bent. Now, this is a very high seat from the ground. It's 33.7 inches. But when you sit on it, if you notice, you can see the bike kind of slouch down, and it's not that high after you sit on it. If you are a taller person, you can sit closer to the back because the seat kind of raises up like this, and it might feel a little bit better for you, especially for the leg room, you know, to put your feet up like this. If you're a shorter person, you could sit closer to the front of the seat because the seat, again, goes like this, and that will feel a lot better for you, and it's probably going to be better for your hand placement as well if you're a shorter person. Now, the battery is removable. First, you got to unlock it with the key. Make sure you carry those on you just in case, and when you go to drop this battery, it's very, very tight in here. If you do have the center basket, you definitely have a little bit of a workout to get this battery out. It's still doable. You definitely take that out. And like I said, if you want a secondary battery, you can fit that perfectly in this center basket. Now, it is gonna be protected with this net, but it is still gonna probably bounce around depending on if you hit anything massive on the road. And here is some information on that battery if you guys want to screenshot that at all. And very simple, when the battery is back in, just make sure you get your keys and lock it because you definitely don't want this thing coming off during a ride. That would not be fun. And one last thing, you do have a battery indicator right here. So if you do remove this battery and you want to charge it in your house, this will tell you the state of charge on there. Here is a look at the bike with the lights off. I have one garage light above me, and that's how the low beam looks on this headlight. You do have the high beam as well. You can see it's right in the very center, makes it just a little bit taller. So it's using the factory beam that's on the low beam and just adding an extra light on top of that. It's not changing the light completely. And that is how your brake light looks as well. And if you do hit the brakes, the brake lights actually do get brighter, which is a very nice feature. Here are how the rear turn signals work. If you do the left-hand side, that's what it looks like when you go left. And if you go right, that's how it looks when turning right. And this is how the front turn signals look. So if you want to turn left, they look super nice. They're blacked out, they're sequential, and then the same as the right side. They're probably some of the best looking turn signals on the market for an e-bike. And then during the day, if you aren't running any of the headlights whatsoever, this right here is your daytime running light. Now, since you guys know all that information, let's get on our GoPro and head out for a ride, and I'll show you guys the whole handlebar setup with the button layout and everything like that as soon as we start. So let's get out there and go. All right, so when you get this bike out of the box, you can go up to class 3, which we're on right now, and you're gonna notice that we're topping out throttle at 20 miles an hour, roughly 19.7. But if you get your legs kicking, which is not a torque sensor, all you do is have to move that sensor just a little tiny bit, and it starts taking off. And you can get up to 28 miles per hour, which I'll show you. And like I said, pedaling is super easy on this bike. There is no effort whatsoever. And there you go, 28, and it just cut me off. So if you want to go faster than that, what we need to do is download the app, and I'm going to show you guys right now how to do that. All right, so go into the app. You're going to find it on the App Store or your Android app, and then you're going to download C3Strom, and then you're going to come in here, Bluetooth to the bike, and then go to riding mode, class 3. You're going to want to put it in off-road mode, and to say it go up to 32 miles per hour, it's going to ask you to confirm and that you can't be on public roads. Once you do that, it will change on this little display, if you can see that, and then we should be able to do 32 miles an hour now. And what's cool is that you do not have to pedal anymore. You can just use the throttle only to go as fast as this bike will go, which is super nice. And I'm gonna bring up my speedometer right now so you guys can see how fast we're moving. And it seems pretty accurate. This does look like it is 1 more mile per hour higher than what it shows on a GPS. But right now about 32. There we go, 33 miles per hour. When I rode it the other day, when I did a little sneak peek video of it, you guys saw that, we did hit 34 at one point in time. I think we actually hit 35, but I don't know if it said 35 on here. It might have said 34 on here and 35 on the display. One thing I gotta mention is that you guys will get a lot of looks on this bike. Every single person that I've been passing has just been like staring at us. They pretty much probably think it's a motorcycle with pedals on it. You're either gonna like that or not like it. It just depends on personal preference, but man, I like it. It's pretty nice. And there we go, 34 miles an hour. Sort of to prove that this bike will go faster. Skirt. All right, so we're in the designated spot to do our speed test, throttle only. Here we go, 1, 2, 3. Off-road mode, 5, 10, 15, 17, 19, 20, 22, 24, 25, 27, 28, and 30. There we go. That section that we did back there, when I end up at that end where we hit 30 miles an hour, most, like 99% of bikes that I ride, we can't get over 27 at the max. So the fact that this thing hit 30 miles an hour, this bike is boogieing. It's getting up to speed pretty fast. And if I'm not mistaken, on their website, it has 90 Newton meters of torque. It's in the same line as the Rev 1. It feels exactly like the Rev 1. Just keep in mind this bike is slightly heavier than the Rev 1. They have the same motors and basically the same setup, if I'm being honest. The only difference with this one is this bike is so much more comfortable. I don't know how well to explain that. And I should just start moving because on this section, we normally do the pedals. And unfortunately, we can't do the pedals and it is wet over here. But you know what we can do? We can do the ghost pedaling test. And, well, yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty much ghost pedaling. I couldn't tell you what speed I felt like I was ghost pedaling. It's really hard to explain on this bike. It feels like I'm just moving the pedals and it's not connected to anything at any time. Look, okay, like right now, maybe. And there you go, about 14 miles an hour. I don't even feel like I'm connected to anything anymore. So realistically, don't get this bike if you're looking for something that you want to pedal. But it's honestly proven in the past that a lot of people don't plan on pedaling because the Rev 1 is such a high-selling e-bike. And I feel like this is going to be the same thing because it's pretty much the same thing with better suspension. And we don't need gears. People like me, I don't pedal. Now here is the spot where we check out the bike in the sun instead of being locked in the garage with just the garage lights. And it's a pretty fresh looking bike. I would love to see one of these bikes like probably just in black. The orange to me throws it all, but I will say it gives it a little bit of character because there's really no colors to this bike other than the gray. And then you have a little bit of dark gray on the logo, which I thought this was a sticker. It feels like a sticker, but it won't come off. So this is not removable. This is removable though, so if you don't want anything on your battery, which just does kind of look a little odd, especially that it's not the same color as this, I would probably peel this off if it was my own bike, especially if you get a secondary battery for this as well. Just make sure you get the one that fits this battery rail. It will have probably no brand name on it. So my highly suggestion, if you do a lot of trips, just get a secondary battery, get this just like the Rev 1, throw this extra battery in here and you're good to go, and you just swap them on the fly. The only thing is make sure when you do take this battery off, you saw earlier, you have to take the keys out, because you can't take it out because it's gonna hit this and you're gonna snap your key. So you have to unlock it, pull the keys out, and you're definitely not gonna have like much room to like move the battery out if you have this. But if you don't have this, then you'll be perfectly fine. What's going on, man? All right, so we got a Jetson right here.
Yeah, I got the Reman. This is the worst bike in the world.
Yeah,
you get this product.
You got to update to one of those, man.
Yes, it probably has a bigger battery, and it's will probably last you a way longer time.
Yeah, so how fast does this thing go?
It's rated at 9 to 10, but it doesn't even go that.
So that thing will do 34 miles an hour.
Damn, that's...
All right, sorry about that. We had some people show up and they had a Jetson. They want to check out the bike and everything like that. All right, getting back to what we were talking about, I wanted to show you the center storage basket on how it works. So you have these clips, and you got to take these clips off if you want to throw some stuff in here. Now, you might not have to take all of them off depending on what you need to throw in there. You could probably just do this. You can hook this little thing off if you want to get more room. It's just this little hook right here, and it goes onto a little corner piece right there. This, I believe, goes on the inside. It came with it. I think you put this down on the bottom, but I didn't do that. It just kind of laying in here because I don't normally keep these bikes, but that is a very nice touch when you look in there, so it's going to be a little nice soft bottom. But yeah, you can definitely put some stuff in there. You can see my whole hand fits in there. Like I said, I'm pretty sure one of these will fit in here. It's going to be a little like upright. It's not going to sit completely flat, but you could definitely throw some extra stuff in here. And then when you need to put it back, you have these little clips right here. And these clips, it doesn't take that long to do, but it is a little time consuming if you're like on the go and you're trying to hurry up. It's not as easy as most, but I mean, that's all you have to do. And then actually before you clip those, you should put this on, and this latches onto the back, and you have two up here that hold on to this little thing. The next thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is the chain. Now, I feel like they did the total opposite of what the Rev 1 did on their e-bike, and they put too long of a chain on here. So I do like that they put this little rubber piece right here that kind of looks like a tire, but it's just too long of a chain. If you guys can see, this chain is just way too long. They could have taken like maybe 3 links out, maybe 2, somewhere around there, and tightened it up, because you get a lot of movement in the chain, but you're not hearing the chain because of this. But I would have liked to seen it a little shorter. So if you guys do get this bike and you guys have the tools to do it, probably take out 2 links, and it will definitely tighten the chain so it's like up here, so it's not so close to this bottom. All right, so I had to turn the bike back on because we've been sitting out here for a while, and I want to let you guys know that it does have a memory function, and it also has an auto turn off feature too. So I think after 5 minutes this will turn off, and then when you turn it back on, it comes up to your last mode that you were in. The only bad thing is it doesn't go into off-road mode right off the bat. So every single time you want to go into off-road mode, you have to get your phone on, switch it to off-road mode, and then you're good to go. So that's just a little bit of an inconvenience every single time you want to go super fast. And then right here on the side that I didn't show you earlier, you do have a USB port. It got moved to the side of this unit. And I'm trying to get it out. There you go. So if you want to charge like your phone or some accessories or whatnot, it's right there. They didn't remove it like some people thought. They just moved it to the side of this display. Another cool thing about this bike is when you turn it on and you don't actually turn the headlights on because you're just riding during the day, you don't really kill your battery. It has an auto feature where you have your daytime running light in the front, but then you also have a brake light in the back here, but it's not super bright, but it still works with your brake lever. So when you hit this, it actually gets brighter. So that's a very nice safety feature when you're riding around during the day. It is hard to see the daytime running light though during the day because it's so white. So I can't really tell with that, but you can definitely see your brake light. Now I feel like this bike does have some decent power, so I wouldn't be surprised if it makes this up flawlessly, but I'm also not gonna be surprised because it is, at the end of the day, a 750 watt motor, but it definitely has a good controller in here. I don't know the specs on it. They don't list it on their website unless we completely took it apart, which the controller is right down in here. But it should do it. So let's just get to it. 1, 2, 3. Oh, wow. Not an issue. Not an issue at all. Now, another thing you guys got to know about this bike too is when you do let off the throttle, the bike continues to move for maybe half a second after you let off the throttle. So it's something you have to get used to on this bike. Some of you guys are gonna love it. Some of you guys are gonna absolutely hate it. Just something to keep in mind that people probably aren't gonna be telling you out there. So when you floor it and you let off, whoa, see, it's still moving and it turned off after like half a second. Let's get a little running start. Oh, whoa, we're all over the place. Wow. This thing is so comfortable. This has to be like Sur-Ron comfortable. You have to trust me on this when I say this. This is seriously like a Sur-Ron. I feel like I want to go up this really quick. Let's take a little longer route because I need to test out the suspension a little bit more, because that's the reason why you guys are going to be opting for this one over the other one. Even at 31 miles per hour, we're doing great. This is beautiful, guys. I don't know what else to say. I hear no noise other than the motor. Nothing's clicking and clacking around, even though that chain is very loose. This thing hauls and it is comfortable. This is definitely getting a 9.5 out of 10 for suspension wise. They knocked it out of the park with that rock shock on there. This thing is beautiful. The front is nice as well too. I have it at the lowest compression, but you guys can adjust it, you know, based on your weight and everything like that. But wow, no, this is great. All right, so the next thing we like to do is a turning test. It takes a little bit of effort to turn this bike, but it's rock solid. These are some fantastic tires. I don't feel like I'm gonna lose any grip. I'm not fighting with the steering. It's nice and buttery smooth, and the stem setup and everything like that. It's just ergonomically, like, how do I explain it? It's done right. All right, so we're gonna do this braking test. We're gonna try to stay at 28 miles per hour, so this test is legit. And we're almost there, 28. There we go. Whoa. Oh, those are some fantastic brakes. There we go. So we stopped right at one of the best lines for my e-bike test. And no, it brakes good, guys. It didn't even slide, nothing. It stuck to the ground. It was so sticky with this heavy amount of a bike at 100 pounds. It stopped so well that you could have seen that my body went forward because the brakes were working so good and those tires stuck to the ground. And that's due to the simple fact that we have 4 piston brakes, and we also have 203 millimeter rotors on here. Next thing we got to do, let's test out the throttle. Let's see how responsive it is. 1, 2, 3. Ooh. 1, 2, 3. It's instant. 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah, that's instant. Like not even a quarter of a second, like a tenth of a second. It's very, very fast. The only thing you have to get used to, like I said, is when you're on it and you let off. So can you hear that motor working when I let off? It barely stays on for like half a second after you let off the throttle. So that's just something you got to get used to. So the next thing we got to do is a pedal test. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Ooh, all right. Seems like this is a pretty good pedal setup too. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah. See how it stays on after I stop pedaling though? Just keep in mind it does that with the throttle and the pedals now, I just noticed. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. See, it keeps moving, but it's still instant. So the pedals and the throttle are exactly the same, and they do the exact same after effect. They keep the power on even though you let off. So yeah, not a huge fan of the after power going on, but it's not like the end of the world. It's just scary if you're not used to it. Now, so far on this bike, I have done 4.5 miles with a full battery charge. We started at 99% and we're down to 83%. So the way it's looking to me is that every 5 miles is probably 20% of your battery. And if that's true, then that means you're probably gonna get about 25 miles of range out of this bike at 170 pounds in off-road mode. Now, if you put it in class 3 mode, you're probably gonna get what they recommend on their website as a base. And then if you go in pedal assist 1, then you're looking at a 70+ mile range. But who does that? I would not spend $3,100 on this bike to go 8 miles an hour. But again, if you're on a trail that limits your speed and whatnot, there's certain areas like that you might not go very fast. So they give you the pros and cons of what you can get and what you can achieve if you go super slow. All right, so here is some of the dash stuff that I was gonna show you guys earlier and I totally forgot. We just got sidetracked on trying to get this to off-road mode. So moving on to this side right here, you never have to adjust this if you're always gonna ride in pedal assist 5 or whatever pedal assist you are on, because it has that memory function. So whenever you turn it back on, it's always gonna be in the same thing other than going to off-road mode. So anyways, up here, this is where you move your pedal assist up and down. It does have a 0 mode. The throttle will not work, the pedals will not work. So if you just want to pedal it like a normal bike, which actually we should show you really quick before we get too far into talking about all these buttons. So if I had to, this is how to pedal it. And because that chain is so long, it's skipping. So like I said, this is not a bike to pedal. And this is how fast I can go if I actually lost all battery power, to about 7 miles per hour. If you hit this button down here, you can go from your headlight being on and off. And if you hit the menu button right here, you can go to odometer. That's how many miles we have on the actual bike. Our last trip, you can reset this if you want. That's pretty much it. There's only 2 things. And I think if you want to reset the trip, you just hold it. Yes, there we go. Yeah, so that's how you reset everything like that. You just have to confirm yes or no. But then it goes back into pedal assist 0 and you have to go back to 5. Moving on to this side, you have a low beam and your high beam. You just switch this back and forth. You also have your turn signals, which I accidentally have on right now. So this is your left and this is the middle and this is your right, and it's perfectly centered so you know exactly where the button is. At nighttime, it might be a little bit hard to see where it's at, but hopefully you can see that your turn signal is on at night and then turn it off. There is no sound from the turn signals when you use them. Keep that in mind, so you have to turn them off over and over. It would be nice if bike started having it so when you flipped it, it would stay on for like 5 or 10 seconds and then pop back. Yeah, how's it going? Not much.
Are you recording?
Yeah. What is that?
Hey.
Oh, is that a Jetson too?
Yeah.
I just ran into someone that had a Jetson as well.
This is my brother's. We like love your videos.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
A picture?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, no problem. All right, let me do that one more time so you guys can hear it a little bit better. There we go. So that's the horn. The horn's very nice, but keep in mind the sound is coming from the back of the headlight, so I'm gonna hear it a little bit louder than the person in front of me. But it's still good. A car's probably not gonna hear you if they have their windows up, but definitely on the trail, people are, they're gonna hear you for sure. Now, other than that, we're gonna head back to the house, and look, this bike is screaming. 35 miles per hour that we're hitting right now. I told you this bike can go faster, and we're down to 74%. This bike is hauling. We are moving. I think after you get a few charges on this battery, this should definitely be able to do 35 or 36 miles per hour all day long, especially if you're slightly lighter than I am. And it's so comfortable. If you have back problems or any issues riding bikes because you can't have a bike that's like real solid, then this is a bike for you. The only other bikes that I'm gonna recommend like over this is gonna be a Sur-Ron or a Talaria. That's like the only bikes I can think of that are gonna be slightly softer in suspension wise, but this is pretty nice. And really other than that, I'm gonna go back to the house and give you guys my final thoughts on it, but it's nice. The display's nice, the cable management's nice. It just feels premium. It really feels like you're on a bike that put some hard work and dedication into having the right components and everything like that. Like the brake handles just feel perfect in the hands. I don't know how to explain it. They feel like they work with the bike so good. The handlebar setup, exactly how high they are. They're not too low, they're not too high. The headlight looks great. I think it could be a little wider, but we'll take it on a second video and we'll see how it is at nighttime. So subscribe if you want to see that. Certain signals are a good plus. The rear brake light is great as well too. And overall, honestly, the suspension just makes this bike. That was the biggest complaint we had. And instead of them just putting something cheap on there, they spent some time and they went with something badass on this bike and made it one of the best suspension e-bikes on the market. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is gonna be my final thoughts on this bike. And real quick, let's get into the range that we did. So we're down to 69% on the battery. We went down 30% because we started at 99% on this ride. I notice when I do charge this bike and it finishes, I leave it on the charger for whenever the next time I get to ride it. It always goes to like 98 or 99%. So it doesn't hold 100% charge. Maybe as soon as you take it off the charger, it will. But if you leave it on there for a few hours, it actually drains a little bit of battery. But we did 7.6 miles of range for 30%, which gives me the impression that we would probably hit about 25 miles of range out of this bike with me being 170 70 pounds. So that's not too bad, but keep in mind, if you're going up a bunch of hills, you weigh more than me, you're probably gonna get closer to 20 miles of range, but don't always try to push the bike to 25 miles. If once you hit 20, make sure you're either headed home or you're close to home, or you're not riding as fast, or you're not gonna be coming up a really big hill, because you might end up stranded if you push it. So 20 to 25 miles of range depending on your weight. If you are lighter than me though, you could probably stretch this to 28 miles, I think, if you're like 120 or 110 pounds. Now I need to get into some of the cons on this bike, and I'm gonna be honest, there's not many. I think the biggest con of this bike is probably gonna be the price. I'm not a big fan of this bike being $3,100. I know my discount code and the links down in the description will probably save you about $100, so technically $3,000 for this bike as of making this video, and it could go up and down, who knows how the market's gonna be, but yeah, that's a really high price point when you have other bikes, especially some I have in this garage right now that I'm not gonna name the names, but they're in the $2,400 range, $2,500 range, and they have almost 90% of the similar specs as this. I will say though that this has been more comfortable than any of these bikes in my garage other than the Sur-Ron or the Talaria. This thing blows them out of the water. So if you have back problems and you're worried about how comfortable it's gonna be on the road, and you need a bike that's really gonna like take the abuse with going off road or whatever, this is the bike for you. But anyways, getting back into some of the cons, the rear rack. The rear rack on the old one was great because it held, I wanna say 75 or 80 pounds, I'm not exactly sure, but this one is so tiny, you can see me putting my hand on it. This thing only holds 35 pounds, and there's not much you can put on it. So that's a downside of that, but I understand why they did that, because the suspension is gonna come up and down. You couldn't have the big rack on there because someone's gonna put a battery and it's gonna sit this high, and then it's gonna come and smack it and probably cause a fire or crack the case of your battery, whatever you're gonna put on there, or your groceries. I do like the center storage basket though. I wish the bike came with it, but that's an extra accessory. It's like $130 or $140 to get this, but it's very nice because if you do wanna put a second battery on this bike, I believe these are $700 or $800 of a battery, or you can get one if you can find them on Amazon. Just make sure you get the right one for this rail. But other than those two things, we don't have any gears in the back, so I guess that's a con to some people. To me, it's not a big con, but I think the biggest con about this setup is the chain is too long. So if you're in zero pedal assist and you start pedaling, my chain was skipping, and I bet you it's just because the chain is so long, it has so much slack to it. So I feel like they could have took like 2 links out and it'd been perfectly fine. So they kind of did the opposite of what another company did, and they had the chains too tight. This one is just too loose, but I do like that they put a little rubber piece over the frame, so when the chain hits, you're not gonna hear it, and it's not gonna scratch up your bike. But I don't really know if anything else. Oh no, the grips. The grips are pretty bad too. I don't like how they feel. They're just not, I'm not a big fan of them, but grips are cheap. Grips are like 12 bucks, 15 bucks. Other than that, the whole entire rest of the bike is a pro. If you guys can afford the bike anyways, this is gonna be a very good bike on the market. But I don't know if I can fully recommend this bike with everything being out there. It's just on the very high end of prices. I love it, but I don't like the price. If I was buying this myself, because this is obviously a review unit, then I would highly suggest looking at different options out there. And if you really want the most comfortable bike out there, that's not a Sur-Ron or Talaria, that actually is a dirt bike in the end of the day, you might want to think about this one. And I want to say that's it. I mean, there's really nothing else to say. I mean, it's badass. Like, it's a really, really high-end bike. Stick around to the next video because I'm going to take it to work. We're going to do 14 miles roughly, or probably 13 to 14 miles, and we'll check out the headlight and we'll check out the brake light. We'll also check out the turn signals in a complete black area, and we'll just see how it is. I'll also bring a secondary light as well to see how that looks compared to the stock headlight, and we'll test it out and whatnot and have a good time. So real riding POV video coming soon, going to work, if that's what you're going to use this for, so you guys can get an idea if maybe you like it or not. So subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. You guys are the true MVPs of this channel, and I had a blast. So this one was pretty fun to do, so I'll see you guys later.